I often struggle with feelings of helplessness. I don't think we should be doing life by ourselves. There's a lot to work on, bear with me. Let's try this again. Welcome to Call It Growth. Welcome to the podcast. On Call It Growth, we connect through conversations that support our limitless growth, healing, and becoming. And we do so along anyone and everyone that finds comfort and safety on this space. Finally, it took me about 10 retries to do that. We will talk about where I have been and why I have not been creating content for the podcast in such a long time in a minute. But before we jump into the conversation, I would like to put the disclaimer that anything that I say here is my experience, my personal account. I invite you to take whatever it is that serves you and leave everything else, and really just walk this journey with me in the best way possible for you. Maybe we take a deep breath, just to kind of honor the vulnerability that we might be tapping into for the next however many minutes. I'm not sure how long this episode's going to be because I do want to touch on a bunch of topics, but let's breathe. This is a retake, so I do need this deep breath just to really carry me through the nerves and the anxiety of being back and being seen. And yeah, cool. I'm gonna take a deep breath. That felt good. Okay, where have I been? Before we get to that though, I'm really excited to talk about something that I want to start. A project of sorts, an initiative of sorts. It'll become what it's meant to be over time. I am starting Call It Growth Healing Circle, and what this is a space for people like myself to heal together, to connect, to share our personal accounts of the many things that life throws at us, and to hold space and create safe space for ourselves and other people in a non-judgmental manner. And this is really just to allow ourselves to call ourselves to our own healing and to try and gain perspective from that feeling of belonging, a feeling of not being alone in anything that we are experiencing. And I suppose what Call It Growth Healing Circle is ultimately what we will make it to be. For now, I'm creating a healing circle virtually. I don't have dates defined. I don't have a format defined. There's a lot of things that are undefined, and there's truly a reason for that, because I want to invite people that are wanting to be committed to this journey. And it's not going to be a lot of people initially, just so that we can get a feel of whether or not it works and whether or not we all find value in it. So I'm going to invite a small group of people. We meet virtually. We'll decide how, when, how often, and for the most part, what we are going to share stories about. And then from there, Call It Growth Healing Circle will become whatever, it is meant to be. But the idea of a healing circle is really to imagine the analogy of sitting around a fire in the nighttime and tapping into our most vulnerable states as we experience the warmth and kind of that calming feeling of a fire. And it is, the roots of it are from groups of women just meeting and sharing stories, and through that they are able to heal and really truly feel like they're a part of a community of people that see them, that hear them, because they've been through similar things. That's really what I want to replicate. We will start virtually if, there are people in the Cape Town area, enough people in the Cape Town area that would like to become part of a healing circle, then we will explore a in-person thing. What I would like to put out there though is that, and it's gonna feed into part of the reason why I stopped creating Call It Growth content in the first place, is that while I am the person that's making the invitation for people to gather and share stories and heal, I'm not going to be the tool that is used for healing, partly because I'm not qualified to do so. Therapists are qualified to do so. I want to maybe create that sense that I will almost serve as a facilitator in the space, but everyone that ultimately joins the healing circle will facilitate their own healing. But you're also responsible for creating safety for others to be able to do the same. And yeah, I'm going to put a link in the description of this podcast, or the description of this video for those that are on YouTube. And I'm going to put the details down. Those that are interested, please reach out to me. Then we will create Call It Growth Healing Circle. Cool. I think I captured that. Quite as accurately as I wanted to. Onto the conversation of the day being, where have I been? What's been happening? Where is Call It Growth going? And etc. A few weeks ago, maybe months, I stumbled upon this podcast by a podcaster called I Understood, and she was talking a lot about the fear of being seen and how, I'm maybe paraphrasing here, and it has been a while since I listened to the podcast, but she really dives very deeply into conversations of self-actualization and understanding ourselves better, understanding our shame, our fears a lot better. I don't want to say that is exactly what she does, but from the podcast that I listened to, and she has a free ebook. I forgot what it's called. I'll leave the details in the description as well. But that one video triggered something in me, truly a realization that part and parcel of why I have a tendency to hide when I'm going through something is because of the shame that I carry around going through difficult things and not being able to handle difficult things like the supposed adult that I am. And there's judgment there, right? Because I carry this huge responsibility on myself of being a 28-year-old, almost 28, I'm still 27, but we're almost there. Being a 28-year-old that's in comparison to other 28-year-olds, and this now then becomes a whole layered thing, which maybe we need to unpack in a bunch of episodes around why there is a comparison aspect in the first place. But I look at myself as a 28-year-old experiencing difficult things, and I don't have a tendency of being able to face difficulty head on. And for those that are on TikTok, you would have seen me having a crash out over my bursary debt conversation coming up, and me really just crumbling into that problem, which for a lot of other people is a normal life problem. You experience difficulty. I imagine they or other people have this resilience to life's problems that I don't have. But to backtrack, the reason why I feel the need to hide is because I feel this immense shame of not being able to handle difficult things as a 28-year-old, or really as a human being. And for the last episode that I recorded, I spoke about holiday blues. I think that was the last episode. And I had recorded another episode after that around grief. And the combination of that, and I mean, holiday blues obviously are centered around me being at home and experiencing family life. And the video I recorded after that about grief was specifically around the loss of my sister. So when I recorded those episodes in quite a short space of time, I might have really triggered a lot of feelings and emotions that I wasn't ready to face yet. And I didn't understand why it felt so difficult to really feel those things, never mind experience things like that, and why I couldn't kind of feel them, sit in my feelings and then move on to the next thing. So part of the reason why I stopped recording is because I had felt so triggered at that time, and I had felt so much shame around being triggered, guilt to an extent, but we'll unpack the guilt portion in a bit. But I had felt so much shame, really, around not being able to deal with my emotions. The guilt aspect really comes from when I created Call It Growth. I wanted it to serve not only as a space to vent, not for me to vent and talk about all my problems. I don't really want to be defined by the things that I had been through, though I have come to learn that through sharing my experiences, I have offered a lot of relatable. I have created a space for people to find me relatable, though not the focus. It really is around not feeling alone in your experience, right? But what I want to Call It Growth to really be is to also serve as a tool. I wanted to offer some sort of counsel. I wanted to leave people with something. I wanted to help. I think I wanted to help, and not being able to offer that help through not being able to, I suppose not really not being able, but not being able to offer that help to other people meant to me at the time that I really couldn't talk about these things because I have not worked through them myself, and I've not gotten to the other side myself. I have come to learn, though, that there was really an unfair judgment of what Call It Growth was offering to people at the time and what Call It Growth could offer. Because on grief in particular, grief doesn't stop. Grief, once you experience something like that, in this case, the loss of my sister, and I would like to revisit that conversation, because when I was recording that video 2 years ago, I had held so much resentment towards my sister, and that was a very interesting way for me to experience grief, because I had expected that I would feel clear feelings of sadness, and I would feel clear feelings of I suppose letting them go, and then clear feelings of knowing what life without them was like. But it actually didn't pan out that way. I had so much resentment for my sister, but also guilt that I was feeling that way for a person that has passed. That's maybe a different episode. So when I was recording those videos, I felt as though, because I have not gotten to having a resolution of my own grief, I don't know if I'm at a point where I can necessarily talk about grief without it becoming just venting and just sharing my story. And like I said, that was an unfair judgment of what Call It Growth could offer, because there are people that experience grief in quite interesting ways, and me holding back from recording actually has, I wouldn't say taken away, but it has kind of taken the opportunity for even me to find, people to relate to through their experiences. So part of the reason I left was, one, I felt like I had triggered myself to a point where I was really shameful about being that level of triggered. Two, I felt like because I couldn't offer counsel, I am not in the position to speak about certain issues. I don't know why I felt this responsibility that I had to bring solutions. I don't know why I felt the responsibility that through talking about my mental health issues, I also needed to solve mental health issues for others. That didn't make sense, but that is how I felt at the time. I've learned that that is actually not the case, and I can talk about mental health for the sake of creating community and creating belonging, and for my own vulnerabilities as well. And I've realized since then too that vulnerability is such a special thing to have. Through sharing my story about my bursary, that I don't think people experience that enough. And I think, being a Cancer Sun placement, vulnerability is not something I hold back on. I am very much, feelings are flowing and emotions are like, what do you call it? Like they just spill out. And maybe people needed that. And I mean, I'll find out if that's what people need, and if this leg of Call It Growth will offer that. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. I'll figure it out. But yeah, that was the second reason why I stopped creating content. And I think the other reason was that there was a lot of change in my life. I had, I think, gotten an offer to start at a new role at the end of that year, which was aligned to what I had studied. I ended up not, so I suppose, going via that path in the most linear way. I actually have a very interesting topic I would like to go through about the detour and things going aside from the initial path that we had committed to. And I'm really keen on unpacking my struggles with the detour and where I am now. But I was starting a new role. I don't think that was the year we moved, but there was a lot of change. And like I said, like hard things for me mean that, and this is, I almost feel like one thing needs to happen at a time. And I haven't gotten to a point where I can deal with things and offer them the same level of, not same level, but like almost manage how much energy I give towards certain things in order to make sure that I still fulfill the things that serve me in the best way. And I mean, sure, a job serves me, it pays my bills, but for some reason at that time I had making the decision that I was going to give this job my all, take a little bit of a break from content creation and a bunch of hobbies, I guess, too. And I did really well. Quickly made my way to the position that I am in now, though at a different company, and that was an interesting journey to also walk through, because it evolved into something I completely had not expected, and there was absolutely no way for me. I couldn't see a way past experiencing that level of confusion. Like, it was pure confusion of how things started from being completely positive and well intended to strange. Really, it got strange really quickly. Nevertheless, I have left, and I also really want to talk about why sometimes leaving is the best decision. And there's a lot of conversations about, look at the job market right now. It's not going to be easy to find it's not easy to find a role. And while I completely agree with that, and I think that's really the reality of where South Africa is, the rest of the world is right now, I do think that by all means, whenever a situation stops serving you, the best thing I can ever offer anyone in that situation is to find a way out. So I did find a way out. I'm in a new role now. I think maybe the concept of work is not something, just the concept of work is, I don't think it's something that I 100% agree with, but I'm paying my bills and I get to experience things in life. I would like to be at a different place in terms of my career right now, but the struggles with the detour. So those are the 3 reasons why I stopped creating. Feeling shame because I was feeling things. Feeling like because I cannot offer counsel, I therefore cannot speak on certain things. And the last thing was I was experiencing a lot of change. I felt like I couldn't handle multiple things at once. And so content was one thing that at the time I couldn't place as a necessary thing to do. Obviously, at the loss of, the opportunity to share stories and to connect with people in the way that I had started doing. And I suppose the loss of growth of podcast creation, which is something when I discovered didn't have so many people creating, but now there's a podcast in every household, which is something that almost hindered me from coming back onto Call It Growth. But I figured, man, I'm going to find my people. They're going to find me. And it is also absolutely okay that I create without the attention, I guess, from social media, though I would like for this community of people to become something and for us to really fulfill the purpose that I think Call It Growth is meant to fulfill. That will happen in its own time, and I'm 100% content with this process unraveling the way that it's meant to. So now that I'm back, I suppose one of the things that really pushed me to creating once again was realizing that I think Call It Growth is going to craft its own meaning. The people that ultimately find this space will make the space what it's meant to be. And I want to say that I do feel called to, I don't know how to say this, but I do feel called to offering the space. I think that is ultimately the purpose and my entire calling, really, in this world, in this life. As I reflect on how much turmoil the world is in, and I reflect on how much turmoil I have experienced in my own personal life, and how I felt so much the need to speak about it, not necessarily part of it to vent, yes, but also because I knew that I wasn't alone in anything that I was experiencing at the time. Just the time being the experience of my bursary debt and what that triggered in me. I knew that there are other people, younger, older, experiencing similar ordeals, some much worse, some not as badly, but we just weren't talking about it. And just going back onto the turmoil the world is facing, I really think that we need to be having a lot more conversations about how this is impacting us mentally. I often struggle with feelings of helplessness whenever I see what is happening in the world. And the only thing I can do really at times is share a petition. I'm grappling with the fact that the world is bleeding. The world is almost combusting from within, and there is no power that I have over that situation except for a very small contribution. And sure, while I can use that to kind of get me through, I almost experience very crippling feelings of responsibility over any kind of world turmoil, something I don't understand. But I think it's also because it almost looks like we experience things happen, and then everyone kind of moves on with their day to day. So I would like to see if anyone else feels like this. And I think Call It Growth will cultivate that, right? We will have conversations and we will reflect on a lot of things that are happening in this world and why and how they're impacting us and why. So yeah, that is ultimately what this leg of Call It Growth will try to achieve. And I'm super excited to do that. I'm super excited to be back, to be sharing once again, and to connect with people. This episode is really just a comeback episode. Nothing much in terms of a specific topic. I'm sure we've touched on a bunch of different things, and not to their full extent, because I kind of wanted to record this, get it, because I had to really just say, I'm just going to do it. I'm not going to focus on how my quality looks like. I'm not going to focus on how many people have podcasts right now. I'm not going to focus on my numbers being low. I really just wanted to focus on what I feel called to do, and that is to create this space and to make it what we all make it, also to really cultivate and promote collective healing. And so I hope you find a nugget or two in this conversation, as haphazard as it was, because there's a lot that I suppose has happened in the past 2 or 3 years of not creating content. So there's a lot in my brain, but this time is necessary for me to start Call It Growth, because there are a lot of conversations I think we need to be having. There are a lot of conversations I think we're not having. And this is not to say this is meant to, even Healing Circle is not meant to serve as a replacement for your friendships or relationships, but really as an add-on to the tools that you already have. And I think I've come to defining this a lot better, and I'm much more open to watching it evolve in the way that it does evolve. I'm going to pause here for today because I think I've gone all over the place. I'm just going to check my notes. The one thing I did want to say though is that I started therapy again. I have new thoughts about therapy that I didn't share, I suppose, years ago when I did start and then I did stop. Ultimately being that I don't think we should be doing life alone. That feels really much like a full circle comment to wrap up this episode. I don't think we should be doing life by ourselves. I think as much as possible, we should be trying to get help. We should be offering ourselves to be carried by other people. And those people could be our friends and family if they feel safe. But I also think professionals that are qualified to do this, are some of the best people to help us go through life, not in isolation. I have come to learn about different types of therapy, and I'm so excited to start tapping into what those things mean and how they can help me deal with the things that I spoke about, that I struggle with, and that prevented me from being able to create content. But I really don't think we should be doing life alone, and that is one lesson that I have learned through creating a video about my bursary debt, and a lot of people pouring out their support for me. It really is that what I'm learning is that I don't have to hide. And I want to also offer you that in whatever that you're going through, you don't have to hide or feel shame. Where you can and where it is accessible, reach out to those that are around you to offer you safety. I don't know if it gets better. I'm still figuring out if it is getting better for me, because I'm still really, really struggling mentally overall. But the load gets lighter when you invite people to do this with you. And I hope you invite Call It Growth to do that with you as well, to walk this journey of life with you. And to make you feel like you're not alone. Cool. That was episode 1. It feels like it was all over the place. I'm worried about how I'm going to edit this, but I'm going to stop here for today. Thank you so much for tuning in, for listening. I'm so excited to be creating again. I'm so excited to be doing hobbies again. Like, I've gotten back into reading a little bit, which is a struggle, but I'm trying my best. Like gardening, planting. I don't want to say gardening because that has a different connotation lately, but I have plants again. I'm really trying this thing out of growing some herbs in my little princess balcony. It's going well. I haven't been doing any painting or sort, but I have been going outside quite a bit. When the weather was warmer, I was doing some walks on the beach a lot. I'm moving my body a lot more now. So I'm really, while things aren't, fairy tale perfect, there has been a lot of change, and I have gotten slightly better from where I was 2 years ago. And that's why I feel like now is the time for me to be creating again. But I suppose that begs the question, why do I ever feel that I need to be in a good space to create content, right? There's a lot to work on. Bear with me. we will figure it out together, and we will reflect together, and we'll share together. But yeah, we've come a long way. A lot has changed, and I'm officially back. I would like to mark this as me being back. Thank you to everyone that has bullied me to this process. You did it, Joe. Cool. I will see you, or rather, you will hear from me in the next episode. Thank you so much for joining. Let me know if there's anything you would like to hear me speak on or reflect on. Do people want to do questions and stuff? I don't know if I'm qualified to offer my opinion, really. I'm very wary about doing that because I think there's so much perspective. But I mean, if you would like to hear my perspective on things, let me know, and you can we can do a Q&A. Let me know if you would like to do a Q&A, then we would do a Q&A. Yeah, I want to figure out if I want to do stuff like those podcasty type of things. Let me feel it out. Let me see how people respond to the first few episodes, and if they respond well, then we'll do stuff like that. If not, then we won't. Okay, this is really goodbye. See you later. Thank you for joining this episode. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I hope you take care of yourself and take as many deep breaths as you need. See you next time. Bye.